Okay, wonderful. I'm going to go ahead and get started. And just as a precursor, I'm going to start by sharing a little information about what we're here talking about today. And we're going to go into just a couple slides to talk about IAQ. Today we're giving away one of our demo kits, and that's super exciting. Thanks for joining, and thanks for contributing your questions to the chat already. What we're looking at right now is the business case for comfort. And so what we mean by that is the idea of measuring indoor air quality as well as comfort at the same time. And what that does is helps to promote productive environments. And where we leverage this data in common practice across corporate real estate, education, healthcare institutions is around the space planning and insights element, as well as healthy building certifications. And these contribute to other elements besides just the general monitoring of space. When we think about indoor environmental quality, that to us is a bit more well-rounded than just the concept of IAQ. So this brings in elements of measuring for noise, measuring light levels, temperature, humidity, CO2, other elements that are going to significantly impact comfort. Measuring noise specifically can be an element of mental distraction, mental strain, stress that you experience within an environment. And so as we look at this wheel around the side here, light is a big element, noise, as I mentioned, the air quality, all contributing to these kind of four elements on the outside here. In our dashboard, and some of you had submitted questions about the actual dashboarding and how you visualize data, we can share that as well as part of the Q&A. But the way we really try to represent information is individually by metric. You can drill down into an individual space or an individual sensor by each measurement metric. Then you can also look in aggregation across your entire building or your facility or your school and understand what's the average air quality index of my space here. What's really interesting is we get a lot of requests from our customers already of saying, okay, we want to leverage this technology to really just get ahead of air quality complaints and comfort complaints that are taking place within our facilities. And so that comes through in the form of a alert queue. We really try to not distract you with loads and loads of fault detection alerts. The idea here is to prioritize alerts based on the severity of them or the impact of them across a broad scale. So there may be an acuteness factor or there may be a broader impact factor. And that's really how we prioritize those alerts. So you see a couple of examples of those here. CO2 in the libraries hit a high level of ppm 5 days in a row. So that may be an indication that ventilation is blocked or the ventilation within that space is not adequate. And other alerts may be that the humidity is excessively high in a particular space. And that would not be incredibly surprising for a cafe or a food prep area, but it is something that may indicate mold growth if that is happening over a sustained duration of time. And then this top one here is around temperature. Certainly temperature is the most common one that impacts comfort as well as humidity, depending on your climate zone. Humidity is a much larger factor in areas like Florida and the south. But temperature being excessively high is certainly going to result in performance drift over time. Where we get into remediation, there are opportunities for looking at using advanced air filtration to remediate particular air quality issues. If you have a high level of particulate matter, we're measuring PM1, 2.5, 4, and 10. And across that whole spectrum, those have indications of different things. So if we're able to remove, PM 2.5 based on a HEPA 13 or higher, a MERV 13 or higher grade filter, that is going to really create an ROI for your environment based on the measurement of IAQ. So you're always wanting to pull that through to remediation. What does that Does this mean we need to ventilate more? If we need to ventilate more, it's going to cost me more money and energy consumption. We have technologies that help to actually reduce the energy profile with a higher MERV rated filter, for example. So let's hop out of here and come back into the room, and I'm going to take some questions now. And as Veronica mentioned in the chat, please feel free to ask your questions. I'll take Miguel's first, who posted his question in the chat at the beginning. Is the device able to send a 2 to 10 volt or 4 to 20 milliamp signal for damper controls? As I mentioned at the end of those slides and presentation, what's really important to us is that we're measuring air quality, but we're also tracking that through to the remediation efforts. And what that typically means is that we're integrating with the building automation system or the building management system to actually control your dampers so that we can modify the ventilation based on IAQ readings. So often that is, you have high CO2 levels, you're going to want to open the ventilation to pull that CO2 out of the room. So we do have methods of doing so. And to the technical degree that you asked, we'd love to get engaged in that conversation with you, Miguel. I think we have one more. We also have a question from Rigo, who asks, what are the filters recommended? So often to really capture and tackle air quality concerns and issues, organizations have moved from the standard MERV 8 for commercial spaces to a MERV 13 or higher filter. What I was showing you is we actually just announced on Tuesday the acquisition of a company called Secure Air, which provides a technology that is providing MERV 13 grade air at the energy profile below a MERV 8 filter. Really a win. We of course recommend these filters for remediation, and not only are they providing that MERV 13 grade air, but it's actually pulling more pollutants out of your air over time. A traditional filter will progressively fill up over its lifespan, which is relatively short. With this technology, the lifespan of a filter is over 1 year. Over that period of time, we're able to pull more of the dust, the pollen, all of those sub-micron size pollutants that are more associated with the viral conditions of the space. And we can actually pull those out of the air. If we're running those filters across your school district, across your corporate real estate facilities, we're able to provide much better air quality, deliver much better air quality at a lower energy cost than your traditional MERV 8 filter. What's significant there is previously people have spent a lot of time measuring air quality, but not really known how to tackle it and take the next step on remediation. And just to summarize, our two recommendations are to integrate with the building automation system so we can modulate ventilation based on readings, as well as replace your filters with a higher MERV rated product. Let's see, I'm going to hop over to some questions that were submitted actually at the beginning of the, actually pre-submitted prior to the session today. And one was highlighting an environmental health study that the students are doing within schools and asking if we have the option for a shorter term IAQ assessment. So we do have the capability of implementing our sensors on a shorter term basis. We're still perpetually monitoring, meaning that we're taking a reading every 60 seconds. And we'd be happy to engage in that conversation. So Shan, just think of Shan Gordon, we'll follow up with you on that as a potential study that you can run with your students. A next question was around how can your monitors be used to supply data for well building certification? So typically a well building certification, reset, lead, all of these, they will come through. There's an audit associated with it. And as long as your monitors are installed and implemented, they'll be able to run their assessment based on our spec sheet. we do qualify for points within a certification process, and we can provide information based on our research and our experience of going through that process and contributing to points for our partners and our customers. We had another question from Robert Munoz at CCSD, and that is, are your IAQ monitors safe for children, for pregnant women? Would we expect any issues associated with kids' mental health? And all of these answers are yes, they are absolutely safe. There is nothing associated with an IAQ monitor that could harm the occupant of a space. We are just simply sampling the air, taking a reading of the air and reporting that up to the cloud. The way we actually communicate up to the cloud is via low energy Bluetooth. So this is the same similar technology that we have on our phones, on our headphones. We actually have even a lower energy usage, which means we're just contributing even less radio frequency to the air and the environment. There is plenty of research and documentation we can provide around the safety of Bluetooth as well as our air quality devices for occupants of the space. I would guess that the thought about asking about kids' mental health may relate to, are they seeing readings that may say your air quality is poor? We actually intentionally do not display the air quality information on the monitor itself. And this is for a number of reasons, but often the facility managers don't necessarily want to expose that. They want to be able to monitor that in a dashboard, and they can take action on exposing that to kids within the school on a weekly basis, maybe make announcements. Oh, we've achieved a great air quality for 5 days in a row. But that just puts the power in the facility manager's hands, or the hands of whomever is implementing this technology, as opposed to exposing this wherever you have a monitor installed. Let's see, I'm gonna head back over, see if anyone's added more questions. These are great questions. Thank you, everyone. How many devices are needed per space? Great question. And how is it installed? Our monitors actually cover up to 3,500 square feet. For certification, there is a higher density that is required. So that's typically 1,000 square feet. So you would need a monitor every 1,000 square feet, or for a room that has a capacity set of 6 people or more. So that is how we become in compliant of WELL certification. If you are seeking to achieve that, we will scope accordingly to the WELL guidelines. But if that is not part of your goal set, then they can cover up to 3,500 square feet. And the way that they are installed is they're mounted on the wall. We can mount by high bond tape or a mechanical mount. They can be just simply plugged into an outlet. They're ideally mounted at about 5.5 feet in height. If we're monitoring an environment, a young child's classroom, we may mount that lower. The goal is to mount that at your eye height. And we do have the ability to power these over Ethernet. So if there is existing infrastructure for us to full power from the ceiling via PoE link, then we can do so, or any kind of power available from the ceiling. So we can pull down or we can stretch up from the wall. Another question from Jonathan Davis: can it connect to the BMS and provide all to points BACnet, or is it a separate interface? So for R0, we also provide a BACnet gateway so that all of our devices can report back to BACnet. That allows the translation back to your BMS, the BACnet gateway does, so that we can directly communicate with your BMS and directly control if you give us access to the control sequence. There's certainly optionality there where we can write the control sequence and put that in front of the BAS controller so that they can make decisions based on what we recommend to the BAS. So this is absolutely the next step that we like to take it to, so that we can really get involved in modulating ventilation based on the air quality readings. We have a question from Jean-Marie. Any plans to get certifications outside the US in UAE, for example? Yes, absolutely. For the rest of our sensor portfolio, we are certified in over 26 countries. So this is for our occupancy sensors that are measuring room occupancy, desk occupancy, or counting people in a room. Those are already certified. Right now, for the air quality monitor, we only have FCC, but we have the capability of shipping to multiple locations outside of the US already. We have users and customers in Singapore and across Asia Pacific and some other locations in Europe. So we are in the process of a number of those certifications. Absolutely. Let's see. It says service call is needed. How soon would you go on site? So as part of our subscription, our typical business model is that we're selling you a device as well as an ongoing subscription. This is how you access data in the cloud on our dashboard. And as part of that subscription, you're given a dedicated customer success manager who is a team member of ours. They're full-time employees here in the US, part of our organization, who are responding to your questions, helping you navigate the dashboard, answering any kind of questions. They're also working through all that implementation of BMS integration and controls. And with regards to a service request, we're typically detecting any issues even before you have to. And our solutions team is responsive to that. So we have a network of global contractors that we deploy and send on site. Usually we can get someone on site within a couple days. One other question that came in earlier that we have not shown today is exactly what parameters we're measuring. So for those who have not actually seen the spec sheet, we are measuring for, again, PM1, 2.5, and 10, CO2, VOCs, TVOC, which is measuring really for gases within the environment. We have also formaldehyde specifically as a subset of that, and NOx, which is another gaseous pollutant really associated with outdoor pollution. And then on what we call the comfort profile, we have temperature, humidity, luminosity, noise, and air pressure. Air pressure is often used in operating environments. The reasons we have that as part of the monitor. But all of these kind of cover different use cases. As I mentioned, formaldehyde, that is often present in new construction. So we want to know when formaldehyde is not tapering off. That may mean that the furniture hasn't properly off-gassed or the materials within the environment, and that may have significant impact. Formaldehyde is a known carcinogen, so you don't want to be exposed to that for too long. CO2 is obviously going to impact cognitive function. So that's the biggest one that leads to drowsiness. Temperature and humidity I mentioned earlier. And then the particulate matter is more for asthmatics and your breathing conditions, as well as some of those gaseous substances. Keep the chat coming. I see a couple new messages. And I'm going to turn back here. One question around fault detection. So I'll give you a specific use case. Often temperature and humidity sensors are used to identify faults within the built environment. One, temperature will tell us if we have sustained solar gain in a conference room, for example, and that's leading to the reason why people don't use that space in the afternoon. Another element may be that you have phone booths installed across your office space. Those are not actually tied into your BMS, so you don't have any information on those remotely. But people are complaining about comfort in those phone booths. So we often install just our occupancy sensor, which measures temperature and humidity in those rooms to identify where the ventilation really needs to be kicked up in those types of spaces that are not connected to the. Another question, what's required for setup? So setup is actually quite simple. This is really a very dedicated part of our process where we pre-install everything on our software in our Connect software. And when we do that, when they arrive and once we install you're ready to go, you're good to go, you have access to our dashboard. That means that you really don't have to do any of the work of pre-configuration. You have access immediately. One more question here. Are there any incentives for this program from ASHRAE and NYSERDA? NYSERDA, we have done some specific research on each of these. We're actually on the ASHRAE committee, the 241 committee. There are absolutely incentives for monitoring air quality as well as the advanced air filtration and remediation efforts that we've mentioned. We'd love to share some more detail with you on both of those programs. The other interesting one that is coming to the fore is LEED 5 certification. So LEED 5 does have significant number of parameters for monitoring air quality, and that is under review at the moment. They're expected the release of LEED 5 sometime in 2025 for any new LEED prospect or anyone trying to get LEED certification will have to go through the LEED 5 process, in which case indoor air quality will be a major contributor to points. So Keith, regarding NYSERDA, we do have a team member who's worked on this closely, so we'll follow up with you on that. We had a question, has any school done this? Absolutely. We have customers that are K-12 school districts using our air quality monitors, and we have a significant number of proof points. For those of you who have not seen it, we released a building intelligence index just about a month ago. It's called the Q3 BI index, which we can send to everyone as a follow-up, and that does have some examples of case studies across school districts as well. So we have a question that our zero was not plant friendly in the beginning. What is the air quality safe for our school plant? So this question relates back to a product line in the R0 portfolio that is UV disinfection. Indoor air quality monitoring is completely disassociated from that particular product line. The air quality monitoring has no impact on school plant. Any final questions? I'm sorry if there was a moment when I dropped out and you lost me. Great, we're just coming to the end. I'm happy to take any final questions. Danielle, Veronica, do we have an announcement on the award, or is that a follow-up item? Great. We will follow up with who is going to be the lucky recipient of our IAQ kit. Thank you so much for joining today. Please feel free to reach out to us. Again, my name is Elizabeth Redmond. I am the Director of Sales here at R0, and I'm very excited to been bringing this IAQ monitor to market and to our customers and delivering serious value on not only measuring the indoor air quality, but also providing those remediation efforts. Thank you again. Have a great day.